Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post my story as anonymous? I have my own confession that I want to share with you. My confession reads like this. So my brother, me and my husband, we were living a normal life. You know, when you are a poor person, you reach a point whereby you feel comfortable with all of your poverty. So my husband, he was in the army, and in our country, if you are in the army, it is not like you earn a lot of money. And if you are a civil servant in our country, it is very difficult to earn a meaningful salary. So we were always living from paycheck to paycheck. That was when I spoke with my husband, and I became a woman, one of those women that sell fruit and veggies by the side of the road. Whenever my husband was on duty, I would sell my fruit and veggies so that me and the kids, we could have something to eat. But still, it was never enough. It was really humiliating that on many occasions we would be kicked out of the place where we would be renting because we could not even afford to pay our rentals in time. That was when my husband came up with this other idea. He had met this other man who had been in the army, but he had also ran away from the army. So now he had returned back from Botswana, and he then said that if you have enough money, when I would return back to Botswana, I would take you back with me, because there in Botswana, my brother, he was working as a contractor. He had learned the skills of painting people's houses. So he then said that if you want, you can go with me to Botswana and you'll be working for me, because he said that he was getting a lot of contracts in Gaborone. So they returned back there to Botswana, and they didn't have any papers at all. Unfortunately, they then got arrested, and when they got arrested, they were deported back home to Zim. So life was really difficult, because when he came back already, since he had ran away from his duties, he could not work in the army anymore, and there was no place where he could get a job. So me and him, we were now working as street vendors. He had his small fruit and veggie market on the other side of the location where we were staying, and I had my small fruit and veggie market on the other side of the location. But still, my brother, at the end of the day, when we would both return back home, when we would be counting the money, we would see that the money that we were making from our small fruit and veggies, it was not even enough. Life was really difficult. That was when he said that he wanted to return back to Botswana. When he returned back this time around, he didn't go straight to the city. He started working in the villages. He was looking after the livestock of this other old man, and that old man unfortunately passed away. And when he came back home, we continued with our suffering. Poverty, my brother, had now made our home its own dominion. On the second day after my husband had returned from Botswana, I heard that people were laughing at us because we didn't have anything to eat. For 2 days, my brother, we were starving. There was no more mealie meal that was left in the house, so that we could just make pap or soft porridge that would be enough for all of us. What I did as a desperate mother is that I just cooked the soft porridge. You know, there are those metallic cups. So I just took one of those metallic cups and I just cooked the soft porridge inside that metallic cup, and I gave it to the kids so that they won't starve. They can just have some energy to go for another day. As for my husband, he had gone out, and when he came back, he had stolen some fruits. These were guava fruits. In that season, it was the season whereby the guava fruits, they were ripe. So he used to go around stealing fruits from people's homes so that we can just eat and not starve to death. That was when one day my husband said that, you know, we are the ones that gave birth to these children, but look at the way that they are suffering. There is no one who is willing to help us. I don't know if you are going to agree with me, but I think that I have a solution to our problems. I asked him what was the solution all about. He then said that he had spoken with this other man who was willing to give us some assistance, and this man, he was in our country for a very short period of time, and he was about to return back to his country, which is Mozambique. But there was one thing that he wanted in return. It was our kids' thinking capacity. He wanted to make our kids to become like zombies. At first, my brother, I refused because I didn't understand what he was trying to say when he said that he wanted to sell our kids' thinking capacity so that they can be more like zombies. That was when I agreed to go with him so that we can speak with this man. And after we had spoken with that man, that was when I started to understand what this man wanted from us. Our kids, if we were going to sacrifice them, they were going to be like mentally ill people, but in their state of mind, they will become like zombies, people that can't even think for their own selves. That what will be happening is that they will be used to make money for other people. This man said that he had customers that even came to Mozambique as far as these people that were coming to him, they were coming from as far as Tanzania and Kenya. And that man, who was a traditional healer, had promised to give my husband $15,000 in cash. And we were so desperate at that time, my brother. The man then showed us the $15,000 that he was going to give us per child if we were going to agree. And my brother, I said, instead of sacrificing all of our kids, why don't we just sacrifice at least one? So we had to choose, but it was very difficult for us to choose. What this man did is that he then wrote the names of our kids on a piece of paper and he dropped them to the ground. So next to the place where he dropped those pieces of paper that he had written the names of our kids on, there was this other wooden plate that was filled with water. So the piece of paper that fell into that small wooden plate that was full of water was the name that was belonging to my second born child, my daughter. She was the one whom we sacrificed. My brother, after we had spoken with that traditional healer, when he had told us the terms and the conditions, he said that if we were going to accept this money, we had only about 48 hours to think about it, and we were not supposed to use the money. We had to return this money in total, and we were not supposed to spend it no matter what. So we agreed. My husband took that $15,000, and then that man said that he was going to give us some of his drivers so that they can return back with us, because some of the rituals that were going to be done on my daughter was not supposed to set her eyes upon any stranger or any of our relatives for those 48 hours whilst we were making our decisions. So the way that we sacrificed my daughter is like this. He then took my daughter and they placed my daughter on a reed mat. In our country, there are some traditional mats that are made out of reeds, those plants that grows by the river. So they dry them out and they make those reed mats, those traditional reed mats. They took my daughter and they made her to sit on that mat, and they started doing some rituals on her body. That traditional healer took some skulls, and as we were looking at those skulls, they seemed to be like monkey skulls. But these monkeys, I have never seen monkeys like that, because their skulls, they were really small. One could even fit 2 skulls in the palm of your hand. That traditional healer then tied those monkey skulls around the neck of my child, like he created a necklace. Then he tied it around my daughter's neck, and she was not supposed to remove it until we had made a decision. After these rituals had been performed, we then returned back home. So that traditional healer, when he had given us that money, he said that one of his driver was going to drive us back home, and we waited until the evening had arrived, because he said that our daughter was not supposed to be seen by anyone. So one of his cars took us back to the location where we were staying, and for 2 days, my brother, we made sure that our daughter never went outside of that one room that we were staying as a family in. If our child wanted to go to the toilet, my husband would take a bucket, then I would give it to my daughter. Even if it was poo, she will just poo inside that bucket, then I would take it to the toilet. As for our neighbors, we lied and we told them that our daughter was really sick and we had visited this other traditional healer, so no one was supposed to see her, otherwise she was going to become really sick. So everyone just respected our privacy. But before all of these things had happened, my brother, when we were dropped off at the place where we were staying, it was somewhere around 7:30 p.m. and as people who were starving, that was when my husband said, let me just take something like $10 because there is someone that is owing me $10. So let us just take this $10, then let me go and buy bread from the tuck shop so that we can eat the bread and not starve to death. We cannot starve to death whilst we have a lot of money in the house. What is going to happen to all of this money if by tomorrow we wake up and we find out that we have all died? So my husband removed $10 from that $15,000 that the traditional healer had given to us, and he had said that you should not spend any of that money if you have not yet made a decision. My husband then went to the tuck shop and he came back. He had bought bread, baked beans, some biscuits and some Coke to drink, and we ate and we were happy. Then we all fell asleep. When we woke up the very next morning, the first thing that we noticed was that the money was missing, and my daughter as well, she was missing. We looked at the door and we saw that the chain was hanging on the door and the lock was not even opened. So we didn't even understand how it was possible that our daughter, who was there with us when we went to sleep, she had suddenly vanished. We then quickly called that traditional healer and we told him everything that had happened. That was when that traditional healer told us that we were supposed to return back to his shrine, and we made our way. Then we returned back to that place where he had set up his temporary shrine. When we went there, he then showed us the rest of the money that we had not yet spent as well. He showed us that $10 that my husband had taken from that money that he had forbidden us from using it or spending it before we had made a decision. He then said that when he saw that this is what he had done, he then sent his small boys to go and collect that money from us, as well as collecting the money from that place where we had bought all of those items that we had bought. And he said that we had trespassed the rules of his shrine and we were supposed to pay. That was when we had to sacrifice our second child, even though we didn't get anything out of it. So the first child, it was far much better because we were rewarded for it. But as for our second child that we sacrificed, we were not given anything. This was just a sacrifice so as to please his shrine. He said that if you are not going to sacrifice this child, then it means that the shrine is going to rise up against you and you are all going to die. Even your children, after you have died, they are still going to be used by this shrine. So it is far much better that you enjoy this money that I have given you, but for you to enjoy that money, you have to sacrifice another child. So after we had sacrificed the next child, my brother, that was when we returned back home and we started a very small business. And that small business, my brother, it then became a very big business. In that area where we were staying, there was this other housing cooperative that was still starting at that time. That is where we are still staying right now. We then joined that housing cooperative and we paid the amount in full. Then we started building our house that we are still living in right now. Even though, my brother, we managed to build our house, house, but there is something that is always giving me sleepless nights. When I look at my daughter, she is the one that has the worst disability. I think that I can say that she has a speaking disability as well as a thinking disability. As for my other child, the boy, he is okay. At least when you speak with him, sometimes you can feel that he is no longer under that spiritual possession, that demon that comes to steal his thinking capacity, because sometimes you can reason with him, but there are times whereby you will be just staring at you without saying anything. That is when you will be acting like a zombie. But as for my child, the first one that we sacrificed, it is very tough and it is very difficult. I know that we cannot do anything because we are not allowed to go and seek for help at any church or any traditional healer, because those are the rules and those are the conditions. We are supposed to respect the shrine that gave us the money. But it is like, my brother, all the things that we did at the end of the day, they are hurting my children, because as for my daughter, she can't speak at all right now. Her disability has gone so far that her back is now bent. You can actually see the place where her spinal cord is bent. She can't even walk on her own anymore. She is always in a wheelchair and she can't even think for herself anymore, and I do not even know how to properly take care of her anymore. As for the money, my brother, that man told us that the last $200 that you are going to have, it will never run out. It will never be more than $200. That is what we are surviving on. If we want to buy something, we take that $200, then we go and we use it, and when we come back home, it will be there underneath the pillow. This is the life that we are living. But as for the disability that my children are having right now, it is always making me to question all of the decisions that me and my husband had to take.